So just in case you weren't feeling like a bad enough parent already, we've got a new parenting style that's come into play, something called FAFO or FAFO, depending on how you speak and how you want to word it. So yeah, let's talk about the new parenting trend. Welcome back to Unfiltered Parenthood. I'm Lucy. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you like the podcast. Very much appreciate it. Thank you very much for the subscribers. The links and everything are in the show notes as well. So we have got a brand new parenting. For those of you that aren't aware, I have a 5-year-old boy called Jacob, and I would classify myself, I'm not going to say the term gentle parent because I don't like the term gentle parent, because I think there are so many people that get this wrong and mixed up with other parenting styles. I think that the word gentle parent has become sort of synonymous with permissive parenting, which is not accurate. So I'm going to kind of discuss gentle parenting as it should be. I'm not a parenting coach. This is just my take on it. And this is kind of the research that I've done on gentle parenting, the proper version. So gentle parenting is also called, or used to be called, authoritative parenting. And authoritative parenting has boundaries. It has consequences. But through the spheres of social media, the term gentle parenting has become, like I say, synonymous with letting your children do whatever the fuck they want to do, basically. And it's kind of slipped into the realm of being permissive parenting. So permissive parenting is essentially where you become your child's friend, you become their confidant, which sounds lovely, but you don't give any boundaries, you don't give any consequences. You would literally sort of let them run riot and let them do whatever they want to do. For example, your child has a meltdown because they want some chocolate for breakfast. Permissive parent would say, no, maybe to start with. Child plays their face even more. Permissive parent will eventually give in and go, okay, sweetheart, here you go, there's your chocolate. That's permissive parenting. Gentle parenting or authoritative parenting would give a consequence and a boundary. So child kicks off about wanting chocolate in the morning. Gentle parent or authoritative parent, or what I would do is I would say, we can't have chocolate for breakfast, but we can have, and then give 2 alternatives. So we can't have chocolate for breakfast. We can either have toast or cereal, which would we prefer? And I would let them decide. If they were still kicking off, if Jacob was still kicking off about wanting chocolate in the morning, I would say, we're not having chocolate. If you would like some after school, you can have some after school. But if you continue like this, there won't be any chocolate after school. That's it. And I would continue like that, and I would just try and change the subject. If he still persists and still has a meltdown about having chocolate, generally I would say, right, I'm walking away now. I'm just going to let you have your moment. Do you need some help to calm down? Or would you like to sit and we can read a book together? I would try and sort of distract him away from that meltdown. But generally, once you've given the boundary and the consequence, that stops it generally. But that's kind of my way of doing authoritative parenting, but it still has boundaries. The new player that has entered the chat is FAFO parenting or FAFO parenting. So I've had to Google what FAFO parenting is because I wasn't 100% sure on what it is. So let's have a look. FAFO parenting is a viral parenting approach where parents allow children to experience natural, safe consequences for their actions. Now, when I read that, I thought, well, that just sounds like authoritative parenting, because that's what authoritative parents do. We let them experience natural or safe consequences. So, for example, if Jacob didn't want to wear his coat on the way to school, I would say, okay, you don't have to wear your coat, but you will be cold. Are you sure you don't want to put your coat on? I mean, if he still doesn't want to put his coat on, that's fine. Trust me, 2 minutes after he's been outside, he would want his coat on. But that would be sort of a consequence to not wearing his coat. So I sort of thought, well, what's the difference between FAFO parenting and gentle parenting? And essentially, it's to kind of give these safe consequences for their actions. But it stands for fuck around and find out. And it generally comes from a place of, it's a little bit more reactive to gentle parenting, and it's a little bit more harsh and sarcastic as well. So the term fuck around and find out. So, you can kind of see where that's going. If you fuck around and find out, you'll find out what the consequence is. Whereas authoritative is more balanced in terms of how they do the consequences. Yeah, so authoritative is a little bit more balanced, it's a bit more structured. We try to be a bit more understanding of the child's needs and why they're asking for certain things. So, like, for example, with the chocolate issue, that was why I would give 2 options for the chocolate, because generally they're trying to communicate something, especially younger children, and they do need those boundaries in place. FAFO parenting, it sounds so strange to say FAFO parenting, is more consequence heavy. So you let your child push the boundaries, and then they learn that lesson the hard way. So you would sort of thinking about, you didn't listen, so now you're going to deal with the fallout. And there is a sort of a fine line between the FAFO and the authoritative, but it is, like I say, authoritative is more understanding and more structured and more balanced in terms of, we will give a boundary, give some guidance, try to connect with the child. Whereas FAFO is very much just sort of, all right, you don't want to wear a coat, right? Well, you're going to freeze. That's it. So let's try and break it down. So FAFO is based on natural or enforced consequences. The parent will actively sort of step back and let those consequences play out, whereas an authoritative parent will try and step in before that boundary is crossed. Discipline tends to be punitive and they don't give an explanation with FAFO. So, all right, you don't want to wear your coat, fine, freeze. And the parent generally won't take the coat with them either. They'll literally just let the child freeze. You didn't want to wear it, that's your problem. It potentially could work short term, but I find it a little bit more on the aggressive side of consequences and parenting for my liking. I will say, and I think that most parents, because at the end of the day, we're just parents and we all fuck up and we all make mistakes. There are days where, whilst 90% of the time I do my best to be an authoritative parent, there are days where I will slip into a more authoritarian role, especially if, for example, Jacob is doing something that's potentially dangerous or harmful. Obviously, I'm not going to allow for giving a boundary, then a consequence, then talking about emotions. If it's dangerous or it's harmful, I'm just going to step in and I'm just going to stop him immediately. And that may be seen a little bit more, authoritarian from that point of view. There are days as well where, I'm just having an off day. It's rare that I can't, but this again is why gentle parenting is, authoritative parenting is where it is. And why it was created, because I struggle myself. I'm 37 years old and I struggle myself with trying to regulate my emotions. I have days where I just wake up with resting bitch face and I just don't want to talk to anyone. I funnily enough had this yesterday on with my WhatsApp parent group. I sent a voice note to some of the parents. I listened to it back and I was like, fuck me, that sounds really off. That sounds really aggressive and I didn't mean it to. So I sent a message afterwards and I was like, I'm so sorry, that did not come out the way that it was supposed to. I really didn't mean to sound pissy with you at all. Imagine being 5 or 2 or 3 and not having that physical, mental ability to be able to regulate your emotions, where I'm 37 and I still struggle and I still have to keep myself in check sometimes and talk to myself and go, you need to calm down a little bit, Lou. Children can't do that. That's why gentle parenting was created. That's why authoritative parenting was created. We try to understand the reason why children are behaving or acting the way that they are, and we try to look at it from their point of view. Generally, most children are either having a meltdown, having a tantrum, wanting something out of a need. They need something, and it may not necessarily be the thing that they are asking for. They maybe are feeling a little bit dysregulated. Maybe they're feeling a bit disconnected from you. So they have a tantrum because they know that if I scream and I shout long enough, mummy or daddy will come and pay attention to me. In their heads, that makes sense to them. It's still contact. It's still fulfilling that need for them. So what we do as parents, as authoritative parents, is we look at it and we go, okay, what are we trying to do? What is the child trying to get across? Are they dysregulated? Do they need some regulation? Do they need me to try and help them? Do they just need a bit of connection with us? What is it that they're trying to get across? And then we will give the boundaries and the consequences and do that afterwards, if they're sort of in the meltdown tantrum zone. If it's just a case of, like I say, they want the chocolate for breakfast and they're just asking for something that's just not okay, that's why I will give them a boundary. I will say to Jacob, we can't have chocolate for breakfast, or, you need to put your coat on now. So let's put our coats on. Do you want to put your trousers on first, or do you want to put your shoes on? Obviously, you'd have to put trousers on. So, do you want to do this, or do you want to do that? But there'll be two options that are suitable for me. And generally that works. And then you have the consequences afterwards. So it's relevant consequences. So if they're kicking off because they didn't eat their breakfast and they didn't want breakfast, natural consequence of that would be, okay, well, you're going to be hungry then, or you might have to go to bed hungry because you didn't eat your tea. That's a natural consequence. And not natural consequence would be to say to them, okay, you didn't eat your tea or your supper, I'm taking your iPad away. That's not a natural consequence, and that isn't going to make sense to a child. They're not going to understand why their iPad has been taken away because they didn't eat their dinner. So that's what authoritative parent is. And FAFO, FAFO, I still can't get on terms of that. So I'm going to call it fuck around and find out parenting. So yeah, FAFO tends to be more on the discipline side, and I'm not really sure how I feel about that, to be honest. Like I say, authoritative parents set boundaries, we set expectations, we give rules that are given consistently, but we also give the reason why those rules are in place. Consequences, like I say, they're logical, they're proportionate, and the child learns responsibility but feels supported by their parent at the same time. Whereas I feel like FAFO parenting might work in that initial kind of, okay, you didn't put your coat on, now you're going to freeze. Yes, they've learned that if they don't wear their coat, they're going to freeze initially. They're also going to learn that their parents aren't really giving them what they need. They're not really addressing that root problem of why were they kicking off about not wanting their coat in the first place. Yeah, so I'm not really sure how I feel about FAFO parenting. I think at some point, actually, all of us as parents, if you do state you do a parenting style, I think we all slip day by day, week by week, sometimes hour by hour into different parenting styles. I would say I've done some elements of FAFO parenting, 90% authoritative parenting, and then sometimes I'm more on the authoritarian side, which is very much, nope, you're not doing this because I said so. I probably have done permissive as well. I'm a bit of a sucker for my son when he wants a toy. I find it really hard to say no to him sometimes, or I used to be anyway, but I'm getting better. So I think we all slip between them during various days, and how we're feeling as parents and how we're feeling towards them that day. Have they been particularly good? Have they been particularly loving? Are we struggling with them that day? That's going to cause you to sort of feel a little bit more authoritarian, for example. So I think we all sort of vary between parenting styles, but I think I'm not necessarily a huge fan of doing FAFO parenting full time, purely because I think that it's going to cause issues later down the line because you're not really addressing the problem, you're just giving the consequence. And I think sometimes as parents, we need to kind of look and see why our children are behaving in a certain way before we need to get to the consequence stage. Let me know in the comments what you think of FAFO parenting. Do you think it's got a place? Do you agree with it? Or are you a little bit like me and sort of think that maybe it's a little bit too consequence heavy, and we do need to take a step back and just take a look at our kids and go, okay, that's why you're behaving like that. That's why you're asking for this. That's why you're doing that. I think, yeah, let me know in the comments. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, come talk to me in the comments. Love to hear from you. Yeah, so I'm going to pause that one there and stop that one there, because then they go on to talk about some other stuff. So yeah, as you can see from that one there, that they have got, he actually says, it's a rebellion against gentle parenting, which is where parents will let their children do whatever they want, which just is not right. And it really grates on me, because there's so many people that get gentle parenting wrong. Yeah, let me know. What do you think?